Hello, everyone, and welcome to Why Wasn't It Better? I'm your host, Patrick Darms.
And I'm your co-host, Anton Paras.
And we have two guests with us today. If you're watching on YouTube, you're only going to see one of them. Producer Eric Taylor and another veteran, Peter Baldeo, who's not seen, but will be heard. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
It's not one, but two. We're getting double teamed.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You may want to edit that in.
Oh, no, like the Pokemon.
As soon as I said it, I realized, oh, that was weird.
Double team was the worst, bro. Your attack missed. Like, bro, you used double team once.
It's super effective. It's very rare that I have to edit stuff 90 seconds into an episode, but there you go.
We like to keep you on your toes, sir.
I'm gonna be livid if the double team comment isn't in the final cut. Livid.
Well, this is a children's movie that we're talking about.
Hey, is this a children's podcast, Patrick?
Solid question.
Very solid question.
Well, technically no, because the majority of our audience is 35 to 55.
It's a good demographic.
It is a great demographic.
So they all know about the Pokemon move double team.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Wait, also, 34. Don't bundle me in that 35 category.
Well, you're not an audience member.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And
talent.
So how dare you try to compare yourself to our audience?
Oh, sorry, audience. Okay, cut that, Pat.
We're approaching it fast, dude. Time keeps on moving.
I'm already into that range.
We'll get there. So maybe,
We got like 35.
I'm almost there.
Sure.
I'm 2 years away.
Well,
me too.
The film that we're discussing today is a unique one. It is Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, not to be confused with Spirited Away, which is what the two guests here did the last time that they were on the podcast together when we were talking about Titan AE. And if you go back and listen to our Titan AE episode, you will hear the confusion that was demonstrated towards these two films towards the end of that episode. I'm just going to bypass the why we chose this movie reason and get right into that. That is why this film is being chosen. Now, Anton, this was actually a film that was always on our list. I don't think we would have covered it as soon as we have now, if not for Peter and Eric.
Yeah, let's just say it one more time for good measure. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
I was waiting because we have not been referring to it as that.
Yeah, I don't even think we had the full name in there once at the beginning.
We have audience. We have come up with several other names for this movie.
Yes.
Some involving cinnamon roll,
Cinnabon.
Yeah. All appropriate. Nothing R-rated.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Horse. Like I said, this is a movie that we were always going to cover. But Anton, please intro this for us.
Gladly. So, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron follows the adventures of a wild and rambunctious Mustang stallion as he journeys through the untamed American frontier. Encountering man for the first time, Spirit defies being broken, even as he develops a remarkable friendship with a young Lakota brave. The courageous young stallion also finds love with a beautiful paint mare named Rain on his way to becoming one of the greatest unsung heroes of the Old West. Released on May 24th, 2002 by DreamWorks Animation, directed by Kelly Ashbury and Loma Cook, screenplay by John Fusco, voiced by Matt Damon, James Cromwell, Daniel Studi, Chopper Bennett, Jeff LeBeau, and Charles Napier. With a budget of $80 million, so $140 million adjusted for inflation, and a box office of $122 million, so $214 million adjusted for inflation. So we've said the title a few times, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. Pat, why don't you kick us off? Why are we talking about this movie today?
It's a movie that has I would say, doing the research for it, a very strange legacy. It is a film, as you mentioned, that is made by DreamWorks Animation. It was a studio that is still around, but in a much different form from how it originally started back in 1994. It was founded by Jeffrey Katzenberg, Steven Spielberg, and David Geffen. And their animation department, which is what Jeffrey Katzenberg's forte was, had been trying to compete with Disney in the animation business since 1998 with, I would say, mixed results. Their first film, Ants, it made decent money. Then they made The Prince of Egypt, which was a critical darling, but was not the hit that they were expecting it to be. The Road to El Dorado was a flop. Chicken Run was an unexpected hit, but they released it with another studio, so they had to split the profits. And then in 2001, they released Anton's favorite film, and they struck gold with Shrek, which is undoubtedly their most well-known IP. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron was their 6th film, and like all the others, it had a big budget. It didn't really make a lot of money, like you mentioned, Anton, 122 million against an $80 million budget, not very good. All of us obviously remembered this film in some way, right? But I wouldn't call it famous. I wouldn't call it a classic, right?
No, not in the traditional sense.
The only reason I remember it is because of Michelle Branch. I think we covered that in the Titan AE episode.
We did.
Because I had never seen it before. And I
do remember slightly touching on that.
Wasn't it up in promotional material for this? Or am I just...
I was hoping you could explain a bit more about that, Eric, because I didn't see her name on the soundtrack at all.
Huh, interesting.
So maybe there was some confusion there too.
Maybe.
Well, we did have a lot of Bryan Adams.
A ton of Bryan Adams.
Was he the guy singing everything?
He was.
Yes.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mentioned this film has a strange legacy because it obviously has some kind of legacy. 15 years after it came out, it got a Netflix spin-off series called Spirit Riding Free, and then it got a spin-off sequel film it released in 2021 called Spirit Untamed. Did any of us see this in theaters when it came out?
I did. I did see this in theaters.
This is like my Titan AE.
Yeah, no, this was one of those films that my family was absolutely going to take us to because I have a little sister, and so she was the perfect age to want to go to something like this. And so we went, family-friendly film, and very early 2000s nostalgia when I see a film like this.
I saw it when it debuted on HBO, probably the following year, but I didn't remember a lot about it. I remembered thinking it was pretty good, but, hadn't seen it since. So watching it just a few days ago to prepare for this was really like seeing it for the first time for me.
Yeah, I was pissed that we went to the theaters to see this. I really wanted to see something way cooler, as you
Like
can imagine.
Spider-Man?
Yeah, as you can imagine, being that age. Yeah, again, imagine being that age and you're told, we're going to go see Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and you're going to love it. I'm like, I don't know, Mom and Dad.
I'm not buying this. I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I didn't see it in theaters, because this came out in May of 2002. I was 14, so I was, past the target audience for this film, and Spider-Man was what I wanted to see that month, and I did. I think Men in Black 2 came out right around the same time.
Yeah, and saw both of those in theaters as well.
And I'm how could I forget Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, same month. So that's what was on my radar.
Like the marketing team has to be fired, right? What are we competing against? Spider-Man and Star Wars. Yeah, this is the week to do it. This is definitely the week to release.
I'm going to bring that up later, P, because I had the same thought. I'm like, what were they thinking? Releasing?
They were going all in on horses.
Yeah. I think we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Eric, had you seen this before?
I just looked it up, so I don't know where you were looking, but Michelle Branch was used in promotional material for this movie.
I was looking at the actual soundtrack where I didn't see her.
No, dude, she's not on the soundtrack.
Okay,
so obviously, that's already a grade down for me. Okay, I was expecting some more Michelle Branch. And are you going to talk? We're going to talk about the music later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you not know who Bryan Adams was, Eric?
What?
Did you not know who Bryan Adams was?
I knew who Bryan Adams was.
Okay, I'm just you were like, is that the guy who's singing the songs? I'm like, he was a pretty big name back.
Yeah, I don't listen to Bryan Adams in my own time.
I didn't ask if you listened to him. I'm just saying.
Because why would I know his voice?
Nothing like pumping up a little Bryan Adams on your way to work.
And then I thought I had seen him in the credits, so that's why I asked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Man, I'd love to see like Bryan Adams at the Meadowlands in '95. That'd be a vibe.
Shut it down.
I saw Bryan Adams in Atlantic City in like 2008.
I'm sure he killed it.
He did kill it. He sang "Here I Am" from this movie.
Or "Everything I Do It For You."
Of course he did. It was awesome. Yeah. He was. That was a great concert.
Yeah, Bryan Adams is known for putting on a damn good show.
Yep. Anyway, production history, it's not going to be long. There's not a ton here. This was based on an idea by Jeffrey Katzenberg himself. John Fusco or aka Fusco, not really sure how to pronounce that guy's name. He was, known for writing Western and Native American themed content. He was hired to write the screenplay for this. He began by writing and submitting a novel to the studio, and then he adapted his own work into a screenplay format. He remained on the project as the main writer over the course of 4 years, working closely with Katzenberg, the directors, and the artist. Yeah, this was made over the course of 4 years, which is pretty lengthy for an animated film or any film of that matter.
What do you think Jeffrey Katzenberg idea was when thinking of Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron?
We talked about this way back on the Ants episode, which was his whole thing was competing with Disney, but doing a different kind of animation that could appeal to slightly older audiences than what Disney was traditionally known for. And of course, his spite to get revenge on Disney was always a motivation for him.
Yeah, because part of me thinks there is so much of a template here for the Lion King, but horses.
But with a twist on it.
Yeah. It's in the West, and
they don't actually talk.
And they don't talk.
I wasn't a fan of that.
Are we talking about this now?
You can. I thought it was genius.
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it because, and I could see, I remember watching it with my wife, and I said, I can see how this is very tough to be a kid's movie, right? Because the kids have to recognize the emotion. They have to draw context clues. They have to look around their environment, right? As adults, we watch these horses interacting without speaking, but we see and feel that emotion. Kids, I can see where you mean he's aiming for something a little above a kid movie because it requires interpretation by the audience.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like dialogue would be important, but like looping back to the Bryan Adams stuff, I would have far preferred if they did that and just instrumental music. I think that would have carried more of an impact than like, here's this, and nothing against Bryan Adams, but just like this breathy voiced dude basically narrating the scenes in music form. And I'm not a fan of musicals. I don't like musicals. So like, I would have preferred if the music was also translating that almost that horse language. And
so
then
like just Hans Zimmer score.
Yes.
I feel like that's a fair criticism.
Like, that's what took me out of it so much, because he's like, you're telling me that this is all in Spirit's head, right? And they're not talking in between each other. But then here's some guy singing exactly what's going on in the scene and narrating the scene. And it's sort of like, I didn't feel like it needed that. I would have preferred Michelle Branch, but I also would have preferred some instrumental. I mean, I'm being harsh, and I know I'm being harsh on this movie, but like, you're gonna have to go one way or another with me, because it's kind of like they tried to play both sides of that coin there.
There is apparently some fan edit that you can find online that takes out Matt Damon's narration.
The narration didn't take me out of it as much as Bryan Adams. It's the music, because it was sort of like it was if you had just instrumental music at those scenes where it's like, and it was like one after another, and I was like, maybe if they spaced them out a little bit more, but I mean, it just, I would have rather it been more of this art piece than a horse music video.
That's interesting, because I actually wrote down that I liked the different genres, because it took you on different parts of a journey. And
to each their own. It's a beautiful movie. The animation, like,
it's interesting.
The way that they animated the horse's hair, and like everybody's hair and everything. Hair's
in
tough,
2002.
dude.
It's an incredible looking movie.
It's a beautiful movie, but like, what would have made it more beautiful for me is, like I said, it was more of an art piece than this, very of the times horse music video. I mean, like, you see he's singing "Get Off of My Back" while he's throwing people off his back. That's a little too on the nose for me for a movie like this.
Right, but it's not a movie for adults. It is a movie for kids, so you're going to be limited by that.
But I feel like we insult kids' intelligence, like, by saying stuff like that. Like, when I can get my daughter to watch it, because my daughter's gonna love it. It's just a matter of
I would think so.
Convincing her. She loves horses. She goes riding horses. She like loves horses, and she's very in tune with like emotions and stuff. You know, like I said, she like just sat down and watched Kiki's Delivery Service. And there's so many parts in Miyazaki films that they're just there for the environment. There are no scenes that like play a part for there's some scenes that don't play a part to the story. They're just there to build the environment. And typically you'd think, oh, kids won't like that. They need to be like stimulated the whole time. I don't know. I think, you know, kids could be more emotionally intelligent than we give them credit for. Not all kids.
I agree, but let me finish the production history and then
all right. I know we're getting ahead. It's just it's good stuff.
Lead character animator James Baxter said the animation was the most difficult piece that he ever worked on for a movie. Quote, I literally spent the first few weeks with my door shut, telling everyone, go away, I've got to concentrate. It was quite daunting because when I first started to draw horses, I suddenly realized how little I knew, end quote. They used a horse named Donner as the model for Spirit, and they brought the horse to the animation studio in Glendale, California. And nice bit of trivia, Donner is still alive at the age of 28 and living at the Return to Freedom Horse Reserve in Central California.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's nice.
It's a ripe old age for a horse. I don't know how long they live.
I assume it's pretty old for a horse, but Anton, that doesn't sound that far from you. You can go meet him.
Could, but then I'd have to be in Central California. No, that's Southern California. Central California, the only real nice parts are like Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. The rest of it's just kind of not much.
Well, Eric, you didn't like Bryan Adams. It could have been worse for you because Garth Brooks was originally supposed to write and record the songs.
Oh, my Lord.
It didn't work.
I'll take Bryan Adams.
I figured you would. 69% Rotten Tomatoes score. So
nice.
You know, nothing spectacular there. Let's talk why wasn't it better? The box office piece, we were getting into this a bit. I have no idea what they were thinking releasing this a week after Star Wars Episode 2 and 3 weeks after Spider-Man.
This is the original Tobey Spider-Man too.
Oh, yeah.
The
box office juggernaut Spider-Man.
This film was aimed at families that had uncool kids or wanted to have uncool kids.
That's so sad.
Well,
there's a huge segment of the population that loves horses.
It is, but if you're
more than Spider-Man and Attack of the Clones?
That's the thing. It's like,
For
you want this to appeal to kids? Kids are gonna want to see Spider-Man and Star Wars.
They're going to want to see lasers. And superheroes.
Okay. Yeah, boy, kids.
Did
you guys ever think that maybe this was for?
There is, yeah. But
Listen,
plenty.
Star Wars has plenty of female fans. It does.
Yeah.
How do you?
If you're
going to
spend $80 million on an investment, you don't release it the same weekend.
You're missing what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think when you think of like typical demographic, maybe they were trying to expand a little bit, do something that's so Spider-Man, superheroes, Star Wars, space fantasy, sci-fi, whatever you want to call it.
If I'm releasing any type of movie, I'm not putting it anywhere near Star Wars.
Yes.
I'm releasing it months apart from that.
Unless it's Star Wars 3 or Spider-Man 2. Those are the only two movies I would.
Do you think they sent it out to die?
I don't know. I actually I haven't gotten a response. I emailed Jeffrey Katzenberg about this.
Wow. It might take a while to hear back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just even in general, when you have multiple releases at one time, there's only so much market share that you're going to get in that week because you only have so many days that you're going to have families going out to like take their kids out to the movies. So it's even whether or not the studio wants to diversify or capture a bit of that market share, you shouldn't do that against films that are major releases that are probably going to have multiple runs at the box office, you know.
Yeah, including in 2002. Streaming wasn't really a thing yet. It was more,
not at all.
It's Friday night, you're taking your kids out, or you're going on Tuesday if you live in North
Netflix
Jersey.
was probably still mailing DVDs. Yeah, they definitely were.
Was Netflix even in existence in 2002?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I feel like it came around 2011.
I just remember I'd get so excited when those Netflix DVDs came in.
There was still Blockbuster, I'll tell you that.
Actually,
Blockbuster was still going strong.
Yeah, there was like a last one in Alaska. Okay, fun business fact. Netflix was founded in 97.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I remember getting Firefly, and they would mail the DVD. Battlestar Galactica, all that.
Okay.
On Netflix, when they would mail you the DVDs.
Now,
Kind of cool.
for any family that took their kids to go see Spirit when up against like Star Wars and Spider-Man, I'm sure that we all had a very shared experience of, I remember being the kid at conversation at the lunch table. Everyone's like, did you see Spider-Man or did you see Star Wars? I'm like, well, I saw Spirit.
Spirited Away?
It's like, no.
Oh, no. The less cool
No.
one with the horse
It's the
and the
wheels.
shell branch.
Dude, it's so bad that I think I was in 6th grade in 2002.
It would've been
I
12.
don't know, dude.
You were a little bit old for this movie, I think.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if I even saw Spider-Man in theaters.
Oh, definitely. I remember seeing
Tobey
that.
Maguire Spider-Man I remember because it was like one of the first DVDs I ever got. So like every time I would move a house, right, and we would have no internet or anything, I had the DVD. So it was always like Spider-Man, The Fifth Element, to get
You were
me
ahead of your
through
time.
until we had internet again. But yeah, sorry to get off topic. But
No, this
No.
is all relevant. I mean, it at least, I think it's very easy to explain why this film didn't make money when it came out. I just have the second reason as everything else, because I think this is just going to be a very broad discussion. We were already getting into this quite a bit. I was completely blown away by how wonderful the animation was in this film. I mean, the opening shot alone of the eagle flying is breathtaking.
Yeah, the word texture came to mind as I saw this movie. I just feel like this is what I wanted with a traditional animation arms race, where you get traditional, hand-drawn scenes emphasized with, CG. And I feel like if only this had pushed other studios to go in the same direction versus more so on the CG doing the heavy lifting, because I feel like this was such an amazing example of a perfect balance at the time.
I can tell you I would prefer if more movies today looked like this.
Yeah.
I think we
Not
all-
even any
yeah.
better. Like if they just looked like this.
Or even
like,
took a shot to look like this.
instead of like you said, just CG. And I understand that there's a cost element to it for sure. Like, but
I mean, even
I
if you think
miss
about the
this
Marvel
stuff.
movies, right? Like
Right.
the Marvel movies are. I mean, Pat, you mentioned this one day, and it never really even hit me. They all use the same filter. They're all filmed the same way. It's all computer generated, right?
They all look the same.
Like we have the money and we have the technology.
but you just
It's all-
copy paste
it's all
all the
lazy.
effects. Yeah.
No one puts on a helmet anymore. It's just computer generated on and off.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's Tony Stark talking into a screen.
This has an $80 million budget, and you can see every dollar on screen. And
Absolutely.
just for some comparisons, so the last film that all of us were talking about, Titan AE, had about the same budget, and we talked about it on that episode how poorly the budget of that film was actually used. The
Yeah.
opposite is in effect here, where you can see every dollar on screen here.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also it's interesting thinking about this particular story that's chosen in this backdrop. Also knowing very similar choices around like Westerns, I don't think have always had the same successful adaptation in animation. So a very unique twist to have it be from the perspective of the animals, of the horses, and at the same time also the conscious decision of having like native presence as well as like this is the backdrop of the Wild West. So it is really unique story, and the fact that we get this in the early 2000s again, it's just very cool.
It's interesting you say that. And so one of the things I wrote down was the story's told from the animal's perspective and how they portray humanity, right? How they portray humanity as these hostile creatures. We're using them and enslaving them to help tow this locomotive up a hill, which is insane, by the way, because I'm pretty sure that defies physics. And it's like single-handedly they've destroyed this entire locomotive, but they portray humanity as like we're destroying this natural land. I thought it was an interesting element. And then because you see two sides of humanity, right? You see the Lakota brave, and then you see the people trying to build the railroad. I thought it was just interesting.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys would agree, it's not a very complex story, right?
Doesn't need to be.
No. Yeah.
And it's super simple.
Especially when you're not because it was not dialogue heavy.
No.
And I didn't think it was narration heavy either. I didn't the narration wasn't like, and this is what is going through my head at every moment. No, you could glean it. It didn't,
It's because they were singing it. That's it.
You're
Trying to
right
be
call
nice.
out, Anton. It's a pretty unique Western setting, and even the setting, they do a lot with it It's not just deserts the whole time. It's different environments. I watched this twice to prepare for the episode, and the second time I noticed you actually see all 4 seasons in the different environments that they go through. You get spring, summer, fall, and winter, and you just get some really creative stuff out of it. Like Spirit's vision in the snow when he's on the train, it's pretty clever stuff that they're doing. And yeah, it's not a complex story, but they do quite a bit with it.
Yeah. And I think it's with the execution of the story that I'm impressed with the most. It's how are we able to kind of take the cues of how they're moving across scenes, or the animation of facial features on, the different characters, really selling what emotion is going on or how we should feel. So we've talked about it before. It's sometimes the ability to tell a simple story well is more impressive than sometimes telling a really complex story badly. So really effective here.
And they only had what is this, 80 minutes long?
Yeah, it's a very short movie.
You have to be, you can't be complicated with 80 minutes.
Yeah,
it has to be straightforward.
Yeah,
and
you need to get to the point. There's no time for fluff.
It's I think the first 20 minutes to me is like an example of perfect, like, hooking you in. Exactly who the main character is, what the background is, and then also what this world is. And then it also just jumps into the storyline and all of the stakes so immediately. So I feel like, the pacing is just so well done in the film too.
I do feel bad for how many times he gets captured. He does get captured a lot.
I was gonna say, I got a little. I got
for a very smart horse. He's getting captured a lot.
I got a little
bro doesn't have
whiplash
fingers.
because it's like, okay, he gets away from the soldiers, and then he's caught by the did he say the Lakota tribe?
Yeah. Lakota.
Yeah.
And then he's back with the soldiers. I'm like, wait, we were just here.
Yeah, and then he single-handedly took out a locomotive.
Yeah,
which is
totally.
Wild.
Yeah,
think about
Bro
that.
Strong.
Yeah, right. Like,
you didn't hear about the horse that did that?
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, dude. Like
that's Donner, right?
They'll kill you.
Yeah.
They'll kill
Rick
you.
stabbed a guy.
Yeah.
Anton, you were asking earlier, like, what was Katzenberg's motivations? There's like a 3-minute making of video. I don't know if you watched it.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube. Where he and one of the producers, they talk about the decision to not have the horses talk, and why they decided to go in that direction is to get back to something we were touching on earlier. If the horses were to talk, they thought it would be too much like a Disney movie, and therefore it would appeal to a different age demographic, which would have gone against their mission statement.
I think that's reasonable, man. I think some of the elements and stuff that some of the conclusions you have to draw about the story they're telling are definitely meant for older kids.
Now, I'll just, counterpoint, or at least just to kind of acknowledge Disney films that have done this. The horse from Mulan, like, literally has this kind of same template of, I'm going to use my facial expressions and my horse neighs to exemplify my feelings and show how I'm interacting with each other. Same thing with the cricket. So, of course, big difference there is you also have Eddie Murphy as a dragon,
right?
As the cartoon funny sidekick character.
And DreamWorks. Oh, sorry, Anton.
No, go ahead.
DreamWorks did Ice Age, right?
Yes.
So they seem to have that element of that one animal because it's the squirrel chasing the nut for the entire series.
Right. Yeah, he's always there.
Yeah.
He's never actually speaking, even though every other animal speaks, but you understand his mission, you understand how sad he gets, and you understand how happy he gets.
It's true.
Right. Is that Dream? I don't think that's DreamWorks.
Is it? I thought it was DreamWorks
Fox.
because
it's Fox.
Oh, it's its own thing.
Yeah, it's Fox. Blue Sky Animation, which was acquired by Fox.
Okay.
But same point you're trying to make.
I just got reminded Ray Romano.
Yeah, that's and Leguizamo's in that, and who else? Dennis.
That's right. Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary.
Yeah, Dennis Leary.
The tiger.
Well, I think what they did do correctly in this film was just sort of like the horse in Mulan, Anton. How much expression they actually give the horses. They gave them eyebrows, which did a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's leaning into animation basics, or like even traditional animation history. When we go back to even before proper dialogue, you either had the animation and then the backing music to have to understand the scenes. So I think leaning into that is an art form, and one that you really see done well here. I don't think there's a lot of films that do anything like this anymore.
No, I was gonna ask later, like, is there anything like this now?
No way.
Not that
No
I'm
way.
aware of.
Maybe like an animated show that pops up on like the Netflix kids special, but no way.
So much stuff is 3D generated now. It's not.
Everything's MCU.
Or even just dialogue driven, right? There's so much around
True.
proper dialogue in animation. And so from at least that perspective, I think it is a bit of a lost art form.
As he always does, Roger Ebert made a very good point in his review of this film. He said, quote, "The animals do not speak in spirit." And I think that's important to the film's success. It elevates the story from a children's fantasy to one wider audiences can enjoy. Because although the stallion's adventures are admittedly pumped up melodrama, the hero is nevertheless a horse and not a human being with 4 legs. There is a whole level of cuteness that the movie avoids and a kind of narrative strength it gains in the process. End quote.
This guy is a genius.
He was one of a kind.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I agree. I like that phrase. There's a whole level of cuteness that the movie avoids.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to sum it up, right? That's what sets it apart from a Pixar movie.
Yeah. And of course, Pixar, they do their own thing quite brilliantly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do.
Were we talking about this last night, the last time we spoke? That like
Yes, we were a little bit.
Last
yeah.
season.
last I don't know how many episodes ago that was for the listeners, but for us, like Pixar is still like that movie Elio. Is that the new Pixar movie that's coming out this year?
Yeah, in a few
What's
months.
it
That looks so cool.
Elio?
I loved and still love. My daughter loves Elemental. That's a beautiful movie.
Elemental was a good movie.
Like it's gorgeous, and like and then there's Disney, who could when they first redid The Lion King could have gotten the memo about eyebrows. I think, right?
The only memo they got about that is that it made $1.5 billion.
Yep.
And that's
And they're-
all they care about.
Yes.
Well, like I feel like, Eric, we talk about this every time we cover an animated movie. Like, we just miss traditional 2D animation. Like, we love 3D animation that Pixar does, but this is a lost art form, like you said, Anton.
2D animation that I can think of that's coming out with stuff still is Miyazaki. Is there any other production company besides like cartoons and stuff like that?
No.
Which still even Bluey, which is a cartoon, ostensibly is still it's all done on computers. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. I love Bluey, but like and the problem is I'm sure it's prohibitively expensive now in terms of labor and the amount of time that it takes to traditionally animate something. And then let's be real, it probably would flop. It probably would not make its money back.
That is why they stopped doing them, right? All of these traditionally animated films, or almost all of these that came out in the early 2000s, most of them did not make money. Some of them lost an astounding amount of money. We covered one, like Titan AE, Treasure Planet, a film that you love, Eric, lost a huge amount of money. Lilo and Stitch was one of the only ones that actually made money.
Yeah. And
they
then
just
Disney
stopped making money. So I understand why they just got away from it, why the industry just moved away from it. I get it.
And when Disney tries bringing it back, right, with Princess and the Frog, there was a lukewarm reception. Yeah.
Right. It's also
I love that movie.
I think
like,
it could be consumer
wholeheartedly.
expectation, right? Like Disney knows now you can remake old IP, but like let's be honest, they understand that comic book superheroes and explosions sells. They get that, right?
And I think that maybe even when I think about why isn't there more traditional animation out, maybe I'm missing a point around it. It's not just the animation style that made these things so successful. It's it's a holistic view. There's good writing. There's a lot of care and attention to the production, that there's great voice actors put in. And I feel like it's elements like that which probably holds back a proper traditionally animated successful film more than the lack of just studios doing them. I don't think that there's just enough care and attention being put into the whole process.
Yeah, unless you're a studio like Pixar, who all you do is this. So while we were talking, I pulled up like just the top 10 animated movies in the last few years. 2019 is the latest date with The Lion King. Then Frozen 2 and Frozen.
All 3D, right?
Yeah, it's all 3D.
Everything is 3D animation.
I think.
Everything
Correct
is
me if I'm
3D.
wrong. I think The Princess and the Frog is the last 2D animation
That's the last
thing
one.
that Disney's done, right?
I think you're
It
right.
was the
Pat.
last one.
That was 2009.
Yeah, I think
Somewhere
you're right.
around there.
I remember when that came out.
It's so sad.
Because even then, it was like it was hyped at the time as being like, oh, Disney's going to do 2D again, and it made okay money, but not enough for them to do another one.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't enough where they're not going to do it again. And there was more risk to the downside. Well, apparently it was Winnie the Pooh in 2011, which
was
awful.
that a hit? I mean, I don't even know if I saw it.
No, I don't think so either. I did see the Winnie the Pooh Halloween one, which was spectacular.
Oh, I missed it.
As you know, I lowered my expectations when it comes to horror movies.
Okay,
yeah.
so interestingly enough, there's two titles that are the major traditional 2D animation films that have one has released, one is going to release this year. And I've talked about it before. If we don't go see them, of course, we're never going to get more 2D animation. But one of them was Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim,
Which sucked. I saw it.
and then The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie that's coming up, and that's going to be 2D animation.
So wait, Lord of the Rohirrim wasn't good?
Sucked.
That's sad. That's sad.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
Was it not animated well? Was it not?
I would say the
story
animation
well?
it looked pretty cheap in parts. It was a little disappointing. The story of it was when it's based on an appendix from Return of the King, it doesn't add a whole lot to
Right.
the overall story of Lord of the Rings.
I feel like if the expectations were not that, if the expectations weren't this is a follow-up to Lord of the Rings, I feel like the film would have done much better. But you can't put a film out like that and expect people to.
It was. So you're
like
saying
it.
it was like a cash grab that was like
It was
20,
even worse.
20
than a cash
years
grab.
too
It
late.
was we got to keep the rights grab.
We need to pay for the rights next year.
No, Pete, it was literally like if Warner Brothers didn't do something related to Lord of the Rings by this year, they would have lost the rights to it. So they were like, let's just phone this thing in.
Sell it to Netflix.
So-
It'll work.
It is just so weird, though, of all the choices, they go with traditional animation and it's an anime film. Kind of a
Really
weird.
narrowing the audience potential.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the only
Yeah, they're not
because
swinging
I'm
for
thinking about it and I'm like, oh well, and Anton, we were just talking about Don. Anime is still doing traditional animation, but I would wager they're heavily using computers for some of this stuff.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it brings
Yeah.
the cost down for them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, some of the stuff is just it would be such a bitch to do by
Well,
hand.
Eric,
And
you just highlighted something very important.
Mhm.
Yes, anime doing tons of stuff with 2D animation. They're all made pretty inexpensively. And Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, had a budget of $30 million, which is not a big budget. And it's still one of the most expensive anime movies ever made.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they do it, and they do it very cost effectively.
Right.
So there's a lot of reasons that I think factor into this. It's always going to come back to money, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, inherently these. Actually, this is a complete side note, but there is a movie on Peacock that I was Conclave. It was a $20 million budget. And
I
it was
just saw it.
What would you?
Hmm.
Well, we can discuss that offline. It's no need to discuss it now. But I was astonished to see with all the big actors, they only spent $20 million on it.
I still point out Godzilla -1.
Great
Killing
movie.
it.
Love
Love
it.
that team.
$5
Love
million,
that team.
and it was
Loved
better
it.
than
Oh.
any. Oh my god, better than
was good.
any Marvel
really good.
movie.
Doesn't that make you like reassess CGI? You're like, how
It does.
how
It
were
does.
they able to do
does.
this?
And it was cutting the fat, cutting out middlemen. The director was sitting there with all the animators,
I love
so
it.
the
Yeah.
animators didn't have to ask somebody else to ask the director, and then
Middle
he's
management.
like in a little wheelie chair, like running up to each of the animators while they're working. Like
That's the best Godzilla movie ever. Right?
I don't
It's
know
up
enough
there.
about them.
I mean,
wouldn't say
I
best
haven't
ever.
seen
I think I would.
a lot of
Yeah.
them, but I would, Shin
It's up
Godzilla
there.
is supposed to be really, really good
I
and
think-
a different take on Godzilla. like the traditional Godzilla movies are very much disaster movies. So like people think it's all fighting, but a lot of it is meetings and boardrooms and like people talking. You know, it's not all.
Pat,
it's not all cool shit.
The best way to say it is it's the best Godzilla movie that's truest to the franchise.
I'd agree with that.
Right? Yeah. Because you can take Godzilla in so many different directions. HBO did it too, right? HBO did that Godzilla.
They still have their MonsterVerse, their Kong,
which is sick. By the way,
also, and I know it was probably playing off the things before it, but the -1 soundtrack. It just slaps, dude.
I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic movie.
I will arguably say
I'm getting chills
it's the best
about
Godzilla film of all time.
I gotta watch it again.
And I've seen every Godzilla film.
Yeah, I'm the weird guy that actually like thinks that the Legendary Pictures MonsterVerse, they're fun. I enjoy watching. They're so batshit insane at this point.
I'll never pay for it.
No, it's got to be on something. But like,
I'm definitely a streaming guy when it comes to that verse.
I love films like that. We live by a drive-in movie theater. Those are the perfect films.
That's awesome.
For a drive-in movie.
I just love that. What is it? Wayne from Letterkenny is in one of the Godzilla movies. Mm-hmm. It's just so... anyway, Spirit.
Back to Spirit, guys.
Back to Spirit.
Spirited Away, Cinnamon Horse.
Cinnamon.
Coming to an oven near you.
Did we like Matt Damon?
Yeah.
I did.
I did.
Yeah,
I did, actually.
Yeah.
I did. I thought the narration was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny hearing his voice in 2002, knowing what Matt Damon has done in 2024, like where we are now.
Yeah. No, I didn't dislike him.
Yeah, I didn't.
I did dislike Bryan Adams. I know that's like blasphemy.
God, I love the soundtrack so much.
I did, man. I thought it was good.
I thought it was amazing.
I thought
it paired so well.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting take. I thought it was a clever way to tell the story. And I love the fact that there were so many different genres.
Musical, dude.
It was. And I don't mind musicals. I just saw Wicked with my wife.
I enjoy them.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It's one of the best plays I've ever seen.
I hate musicals, especially musicals where it's like, I'm singing exactly what I'm doing.
Princess and the Frog is a musical.
Right, but that's like Bayou Jazz. I have a soft spot for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Oh my god.
More so than
oddly specific genre.
No, I like because it was like my favorite thing to study when I was finishing up my bachelor's. I just loved it. And they captured a vibe. This was just Bryan Adams singing pop songs. Like,
that's cool.
Why don't make them like more Western or have like a more it might be an obscure reference, like more of like a Shaky Graves kind of vibe. I know Shaky Graves didn't exist.
What about
back then?
Garth Brooks vibe?
So Garth Brooks, no, but like
that would have been more appropriate for a Western, though. No,
it would, but that's okay.
Wiz Khalifa?
Forcing my hand here. Yeah, dude, black and yellow all over this. Absolutely.
East and West.
Yeah,
I would just argue that songs like this fit thematically with the Old West. I mean, that's part of the American tradition, just country songs and basically singing exactly what you're seeing around you. But then thematically, it's really easy to understand. Like, for example, you brought the example of like "Get Off My Back." It has multiple meanings, whether it's like literally get off the horse's back, or like how are we kind of looking at these people that are oppressing like the horses and the Lakota tribe. So I feel like there's multiple meanings to be driven across all these songs, and I think thematically they fit really well.
I also do have one plot hole question. So remember when the colonel is trying to break the horse and then he's giving that monologue and then he tosses him off in a very aggressive fashion? Wouldn't that old man have had like significant injuries?
Not only that, but like the dude that got headbutt by a horse.
Yeah,
like these guys would be dead, right? Or like
I would think
they would, but it's a cartoon. Here's a real plot hole question: why did the colonel stop the guy from shooting Spirit?
He's
established.
He respected
He earned it. He did.
And the Native American that was with him.
Yeah.
The way that he was talking when he.
Yes.
But he was like, if he really respected him, wouldn't he have earned the respect before jumping over a cavern?
Well,
this horse has escaped from him thrice. Okay, like it is not. He is not good at containing this horse. You don't think that he respected Spirit earlier
Look,
and would have been like, okay,
Listen, I
I'll
don't think
let
your
you go.
criticism's
But
invalid.
no, he raids a Native American camp, and I think it's because he's like that horse had to have gone there. You know, he was after Spirit. He shot Spirit's girlfriend. Oh, but no, don't shoot him now. We're done.
Yeah, it's a kids movie.
Yeah,
They're
well,
not going to show him gunned down.
And in kids' movies, it's still okay to kill the bad guy. All right, I wanted him to climb up there and Spirit do a little jukey thing, and he goes, "Oh!" Like killed by his own hubris. Gaston, that happened. You know, Gaston dies, Scar dies.
But they
Scar
wanted
gets
to make this
Scar gets
different.
freaking
This is not
eaten.
Disney, though.
This is not Disney.
This is not Disney.
I don't know.
I'm just pointing out stories.
Hey,
You
listen.
said kids. Oh, we can't do that. It's a kids movie. Yeah, you can.
The old man from Babe, who is also the Colonel, very little thing, but you do get a hint that the guy isn't like that he respects his enemies because of the way that he understands the different tribes and understands what's the difference between Lakota tribe and the other tribes. So he shows he has some respect for his enemies.
That's why I think it's a well-written movie for not having a lot of dialogue. Just through the characterization of the Colonel, to your point, Anton, you get the sense he's not one-dimensional evil.
Yes, I agree
He's
with that.
antagonistic, but he's not a villain.
I got the sense he was evil the way he was treating them horses.
Well, I didn't say he was a good guy.
It's true.
But he was an antagonist.
He was an
Yeah.
antagonist, for
He
sure.
was definitely trying to stir up some stuff.
I mean, he looked like Powers Booth.
And he clearly represents just westernization, right?
Yeah, the embodiment of American settlers and colonization.
You
Right.
and Roy.
And that's not a good thing.
Farmer Hoggett.
Yes. That'll do.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.
Other than Matt Damon, he's really the only big name in the film. Although, if you know Charles Napier,
We didn't mention them in the intro, but Zahn McClarnon and Michael Horse, two pretty famous like Native American actors that have been usually when Hollywood's like, hey, we need Native American people, they play different roles.
Native American people.
They were also in there was a recent show on FX, Reservation Dogs.
Oh, I heard of that.
Yeah, really awesome show. So, I want to make sure to give them their due. Really, really, small roles in this film, but it's also, I was reading on just how did like the Lakota tribe or just native peoples like kind of receive this film in general. Very favorable.
I would have
think
hoped
so.
so, because it puts them in a pretty good light.
It does. I don't think it
As
doesn't
it
frame
should.
anyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Better than, well, I think there wasn't also any very crazy takes in the film versus or changing of, there wasn't a significant like historical backdrop that there were any liberties taken with versus like Pocahontas.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
what you mean. This was like general colonization as opposed to a specific event.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you should.
Sure.
I also want to give a special shout out to Jeffrey Katzenberg because, Anton, as we're reassessing some of these DreamWorks films, Shrek gets all of the limelight as it should. It was their most financially successful franchise. It, of course, won the first Academy Award for animated feature.
Yeah.
I would say, apart from Shrek, of all the DreamWorks films that I've been watching recently, this one represents, I think, it's the best example of what Katzenberg and DreamWorks were trying to do. Even though it was not a financial success, I think I appreciate this far, far more now as an adult than I think I would have if I had seen it in theaters when I was 14 years old.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many
Yes.
different elements you see now.
Spoiler alert. Now let's go back and we remember I talked about how I complained as a child having to see this in theaters. Talking about how I definitely didn't enjoy telling other kids that I saw this movie in theaters at school, but I did not expect to be crying over a horse movie in 2025.
Cried?
I cried.
Oh.
This one got me.
Anton,
This one got me.
Anton, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't even like this movie and I cried. But as we covered in the last episode that I was on, I'm a pretty big bitch. Like, I cry at everything.
Yeah.
So this still got me. to me that doesn't mean very much.
His barrier to tears is
Bro,
low.
I tear up at Hallmark movies. I was telling them last night. I tear up at Hallmark movies, and like I know how it's gonna end.
What's wrong
They're
with your
gonna
high school
be
sweetheart
fine.
coming home at Christmas?
Eric, which Bryan Adams song got you?
None of them. Oh God, it was like I
Brothers Under the
Dude.
Sun? Banger.
No.
Yeah.
I did not like the music, dude. I did not like any of it.
You didn't like the Hans Zimmer?
Oh no, I
orchestral
like the
stuff?
Hans Zimmer. Anytime somebody was vocalizing, like saying words, I hated it.
So if
I hated every
this had
second
been
of
accompanied
it.
by like a jazz soundtrack, you would have been in.
No,
Like
okay,
you,
don't,
Jazz.
don't-
Bayou Jazz.
Dixieland.
no. Don't be a bitch about it. If this was accompanied by like Red Dead Redemption music, okay? Stuff like that, all instrumental, still intense, still period, still relatable. I would probably give it an A if the soundtrack was different, as in everything Bryan Adams did. I'm sorry. It's my opinion, okay? I
Do to
can't
you, Eric?
I can't change
You
it.
don't have to.
You don't have to.
apologize.
You don't have to.
Did Bryan Adams not
apologize.
retweet you or
Dang,
something,
like-
man?
What?
Did Bryan Adams not retweet you? I'm on the.
Like I've literally ever been on Twitter.
No.
But no, I like his other music.
I respect it.
did
I
not
do.
like it in this.
Do you like what he did
I-
for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves?
I
So
haven't seen
Pete
that.
knows what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Classic.
so good.
Classic movie.
Well, no, I think I'm like 80% sure he's at the end of The Fifth Element. There's a song that sounds like exactly like him.
I don't think
It's
he's
either-
involved in The Fifth Element.
No, not at all.
No, he did
But
a lot of
anyway.
soundtrack stuff in the '90s, though, for sure.
Bruce
that's
Willis
what I'm
did it.
saying.
A little better.
Bruce Willis is in The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
That's my favorite movie of all time. But
Awesome
dude,
movie.
like here's what I'll do. Because as we discussed, I have an entire graduate degree I'm not using. I will go in and I will remove the Bryan Adams songs and I will replace them with songs that I feel are more fitting, and we'll see. This is not going to happen this year.
Is it going to be Bayou Jazz?
No, my God, you guys are missing the
Can
point.
you do it after
when I said
Jeffrey
that.
Katzenberg responds to my email?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well,
Are we waiting? Is this going to be
it's just going to be between. I'm not going to like release it.
the
I
2025
think you
Christmas
should.
episode? Is going to be Eric's cut.
Spirit
No,
Stallion of the
dude,
Cimarron, the Bayou.
Again, I'm having.
Get away.
This,
Stallion of the Cimarron. Bayou
you
edition.
guys are being assholes right now. It's
Oh.
pissing me off. No, dude, like,
No, dude, we respect
I
the
would have
criticism.
preferred it if it wasn't. I don't think that it fit the period. I disagree with whomever said that. Like,
love
We
it. I love the
all three of us
conviction.
did. So
yeah, so
I
I,
love your
disagree with
conviction,
all
Eric.
three of you.
Yeah.
I respect
listen.
your opinion, even if it's
Listen,
wrong.
Fold.
It was I remember I was probably way more pissed than people probably should be at the fact that they had so many like jukebox tunes in the Super Mario movie. That
I've
made me
never
mad.
seen that.
That made me
so.
mad.
Oh, like Take on Me by Aha. It had nothing
Or,
to do with
uh,
the plot.
Or it had to open the scene with like Mario and Luigi running through New York. It was No Sleep Till Brooklyn. I was like, what?
Beastie Boys.
That's how I felt, okay, about this music.
Yeah.
I thought it was out of place, or the Get Off of My Back one, dude. I actually groaned. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
And you know what?
Man,
You
I have
got
to put an
to have your
explicit
conviction.
warning on this now. Well, Eric,
I
you
thought
know,
you told me to drink.
it's okay.
What did
yeah,
you
I did. I did.
expect?
Well, Eric, did you know? Like, so I was doing some research on this. They say the desert is hot, but the desert contains the coldest blood of all.
You know why I think you're mad? You've suggested I watch 2 movies, and I have not enjoyed either of them.
I thought you'd enjoy this one more than Star Trek. Clearly,
I think it's beautiful. It's really the music. The music really took me out of it.
I can see.
Really, like it felt like Titan AE music. Like when it came on,
that's
I was
harsh. Oh,
I was like-
how dare you compare
no,
this to
no,
Titan
no.
AE? Oh,
How
my
dare you?
gosh.
Every time it came on, I rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
There were several moments in Titan AE that made me envy the deaf.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
true.
really.
It was-
No, objectively, Titan AE was way worse. But yeah, dude, no.
Oh, Eric, so this is a good listen for you. So recently we reviewed the Tim Burton remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If you want to hear bad music, the Oompa Loompa songs in that film.
Oh my gosh. Those are bad.
Wait, well, the remake?
The remake, not the
Yeah.
original.
Oh,
the
Johnny
remake.
Depp.
Dude,
Johnny
do you want
Depp's-
to know what's up? I can't remember if I saw Spider-Man, but I know I saw that in the theaters, and I think it stuck with me.
I've never seen any of them because it terrifies me. I've never seen the
And-
original. I've never seen Charlie.
The
I've never
original's
seen
so
Willie.
much fun.
Original's
I've
good,
never
dude.
seen Johnny Depp. I've never seen any of them. The thought of a grown man having a chocolate factory and inviting kids in to hang out in this chocolate factory is just weird for me.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's weird.
It's
There's no
supposed
doubt
to
about
be
it.
weird, though. Like,
the
Yes.
fact that his crippled grandfather can't get out of bed until he gets the golden ticket. He's like, "I'll come with you, Charlie.
is
Yeah.
I actually wasn't crippled at all."
He's a freeloader.
freeloading Grandpa.
Yeah.
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 Total sidebar. Do you guys remember what was going on with The Well and Babe 2 Pig in the City?
Definitely not. I don't
Like, I
remember
just-
anything about that movie.
Well, that was why they left. That was why Babe and Mrs. Hoggett left, was because The Well was suddenly like going bad. But I was like, what was going bad? What was produced out of that well? And this is where my mind goes when we bring up James Cromwell.
I think of the iRobot guy.
The hologram guy.
Yeah.
James Cromwell, the hologram.
Hello,
3
detective.
rules. I've written to robots to have 3 rules.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, Pete. I'm curious if that holds up. I'm willing to bet it doesn't.
I caught pieces of it on like Freevee the other day, where it's like the movie's 90 minutes, but you're watching 82 minutes of ads.
Mm,
It was on in the
Yeah.
background, and the movie holds up well until the end. Then everything comes off on the rails. And I think it was
when there's like the robot war.
yeah. That's
I mean,
it was just
the
nuts.
robot. Well, the robot war only had like it had that trailer scene where the lead detective shoots the one robot with a shotgun through the glass,
Which is cool.
like
Yeah.
that was like the coolest scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are experiencing an accident.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to review that because I actually got an email from a listener wondering why we haven't covered a Will Smith movie yet.
Well,
Should we do Oblivion?
I'm
Oh wait, no.
I have a
I'm
good
not-
idea of what we can do. I'm not making this up. You can fact check this. They are making later this year a sequel to I Am Legend in which they are going to pretend that the final 20 minutes of I Am Legend didn't happen so they can feature Will Smith in it.
Okay.
good for them.
We need to stop featuring Will Smith and stuff.
Wait.
I love
wait,
Will
wait.
Smith. I
Is
think
Will
he's
Smith-
had his time.
I agree with
Is
you,
he-
Eric. Just
is he
leave
starring
him,
in a-
leave him in the past. I don't need to see Will Smith. in
Especially
anything
what was
else.
that? What was that terrible one
Oh.
he did with his son?
Oh.
The
Oblivion.
terrible.
After Earth?
No,
Oh,
After
After
Earth.
Yeah,
Oblivion
the
Yeah.
with Tom
Shyamalan
Cruise,
movie.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
we already. I think if we're gonna talk about a Will Smith film, everyone's got to be wondering why did they do that Hancock film?
Oh, that's on our list.
Yeah,
That's a
Oh, yeah.
terrible movie.
So stupid.
Horrible.
Just a huge American Eagle ad.
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm thinking
Correct me if
about
I'm
it.
wrong, Anton, or any of you. That was the beginning of the end for Will Smith, right? Like, I think that movie made a lot of money, but we were all like, "What's going on here?" Like,
It was yeah. It was
Yeah.
clear
That
that
was pre-Pursuit of Happiness, right?
no, that was after it.
Oh, was it after?
Yeah,
Ugh.
that was like
So
08.
bad.
Pursuit of Happiness, dude. And I mean, I love Men in Black. I love Independence Day. We are not talking about Spirit Cinnamon Roll anymore.
I love Bad
I
Boys.
just-
yeah.
yeah.
Anton
But
loves Ali.
currently,
I love Booty Call.
Is that a Will Smith movie?
No, but it's a great movie.
I don't think we've ever had an episode go off the rails quite like this. Yeah, I mean,
This is-
Eric
this is
doesn't
fun.
like Spirit Stallion and the Cimarron, but it seems like everyone else here does.
I agree with that.
Hey, I'm not gonna bend to peer pressure.
We're not
And,
asking you to. It's okay.
And you know,
I'll never get over your hatred for the animated Lord of the Rings. It was so funny.
that's an old episode.
It is an old
Listeners.
episode.
That was the first time I think ever a movie has gotten me legitimately angry.
What was that, spring of last year?
Over a year ago.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
over a
oh
year
man.
ago.
Oh, goodness.
That was
Mhm.
episode 50.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, that was our
Yeah.
50th episode. How much we've grown.
Hey, thank you guys. Issue it thanks to the audience and your supporters, especially your paid supporters on Patreon.
We thank them very much by giving them early access.
Thank them
And-
more.
Ad free.
Yeah.
Thank them more.
Well, we always are appreciative of our listeners and our supporters, and maybe this is a good segue to our "Did we like it?" segment.
Was that a gong?
I accidentally hit this thing.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was a gong.
the
That's
mic
how we're
stand.
going to introduce
Yeah.
this section from
Yeah.
now on. It's a gong.
That actually would be sick.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It is time for the ratings.
Is that your
Time for the
Jeffrey Katzenberg.
my
Well,
God.
I know Eric likes to go last.
You made me go first. Yeah, I'll
You
go
made
last.
yourself go first after what happened. So, Pete, if you'd like to go first, you are welcome to. You don't have to.
We'll go first because my wife Ashley asked me. She goes, "So what are you going to rate it?" And I was like, I can't tell you that right now." And then I gave her my rationale, and I'll explain it to the listeners and stuff. I thought the movie was awesome. I thought it was so creative in the fact that, like, the animals don't talk, but you're still able to understand the story. I love the fact that it was 82 minutes. To your point, Pat, it was very well paced. It was quick. At one point, I paused it to go to the restroom, and I remember looking at the movie to say, how the hell are they going to wrap this up? And they did. I thought the voice acting was good. The animation was awesome. I see the deeper thing of how they portrayed humanity. I thought that was a very adult concept. Overall, I love the movie more than I thought I was going to. Watching it, I'm going to give it a solid B+.
I was going to call this movie underrated. I don't know that it is because it obviously has some kind of legacy due to the sequels that it's gotten on Netflix. I've never heard anyone really talk about the streaming sequels at all. So I really don't know what to make of that. Although, Anton, you brought up a really good point that animation on Netflix, they just kind of throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And this might have been a cheap IP for them to take a crack at. I don't know, but I think you're onto something there. This movie is hard to categorize in terms of, if you look at the competition from around 2002, Spirited Away, although I wouldn't call it a competitor to this movie, but it's one that we confuse with this movie. But you have Shrek, Monsters Inc., Lilo and Stitch, Ice Age, Emperor's New Groove, Finding Nemo, stuff like The Road to El Dorado, Treasure Planet, Atlantis Lost Emperor. They all seem to be better remembered than this film for one reason or another. But this is a really good movie. This is a gem. Like you, Pete, I was not expecting it to like it as much as I did. I am going to have to call this underrated. It's beautifully told. The visuals are outstanding. I absolutely love the soundtrack. It's some of the best animation of its kind from the era that I can think of. I didn't find any of it cheesy, not 1 minute. It's just such a beautifully told film. It's everything that I want to see from a kid's movie. I would absolutely watch this again. This is a movie that you want to show to kids. And I watched this with our nieces, and they loved it. So I give this an A-. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, this on paper seems like a very obscure film. And being able to rewatch it, it was just, I was blown away. Just because of all of the reasons, you just stated, Pat. I think, Pete, you also put it really well. I take for granted what has been, put before that's considered legendary, of course, in animation. And I feel like it's a film like this which gets all of the basics right and puts together a strong balance. And at the time was also very innovative with the way that it was using CG animation and traditional animation. And I feel like it's just so amazing that a film like this really does go under the radar. I hope that us covering the episode gives a lot more buzz to this very, very underrated film. I really enjoyed it. I did cry, putting it out there. I don't always cry for animated films, but I feel like this one really, tugged on my heartstrings a lot. So I would absolutely recommend this. And I feel like there's a lost art form that I hope that this film can inspire for other folks to pursue or maybe even inspire creatively. So I'm right there with you, Pat. A-.
Wow. Hit the gong. Hit the gong. Yes.
Dude, that sounds like a gong.
So
It's
perfect.
Love it.
So yeah.
Just bring this down for us.
Let's end on a high
No,
note.
and like here's the problem, because after hearing you guys, I have not changed my score. I understand where you guys are coming from. One of my favorite movies of all time is No One Will Save You, a Hulu original. I think there is one word of dialogue in that entire movie. So I like that there's different ways that emotion is portrayed, different ways that, you know, I enjoyed so much about this movie. And we've talked in the past that just because it is a kid's movie does not mean that there's no way for it to also translate into adult sensibilities. We've talked about that for multiple movies, or at least that's my thing. Because when you make a movie, if you were really trying to just focus on a children's demographic, you know, you don't have to put so much effort into it. It's just a fact. I mean, like, you know, if you look at something like Blippi, okay, there's not a lot of effort in there. It's just for kids. But what took me out of it, and we've talked about it, really was the music. If you're going to have these characters be characters without even like subtitles, right? Or without a voice, why do we need to bring in a singer to give them the voice? Because that's what it was. I felt that the music was Spirit talking, but Matt Damon is Spirit talking. And Spirit doesn't talk to anyone else. So why is it happening now? That took me out of it. I understand where you guys are coming from. I did think that the general or whomever was a compelling antagonist for this movie, but I just felt like there wasn't enough sort of retribution at the end. I mean, again, like Spirit has embarrassed this guy multiple times, and he's not gonna again. And he shot Spirit's girlfriend and left her to die, and he's not gonna shoot Spirit now. So I get where you guys are coming from, and I absolutely do think more movies should be animated like this. It's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous film. Hans Zimmer's score is good, and I like that they didn't, you know, go the Disney route and give the animals a voice. But these things brought it down for me so much that I can't give it a higher score than a C+. I'm about there with Rotten Tomatoes on its 69%. Just on the cusp of, well, I guess C+ would be higher. I've been out of school for a while. I don't really know where the thresholds are. But C to C+, if only for how gorgeous it was, how the story was. The music did nothing for me and brought it down hard for me personally. And I don't like musicals, and that's a personal preference, and I understand that. But I'm still going to have my preference, and I'm still going to give it my score.
Well said.
I think it's fair.
I think everybody listening should watch it. I don't disagree with that
So
statement.
you'd recommend it?
Yeah. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. And I think
it might be for somebody else, and obviously it is for somebody else.
It's a good movie, but there's elements of it that
Absolutely.
he doesn't enjoy.
I purchased it on Amazon because my daughter is going to love this. Sorry for cursing again.
Okay.
I can. You can send me the video, and I could censor out all my.
If you curse once, it's like PG-13. But if you curse more than once, then you're like rated R.
Yeah, I have to put the explicit warning on it for Spotify.
Oh, and that's going to really change our traction with the 35 to 55 year olds.
It's true.
Should we just bleep it? Want to bleep it?
I can
or
bleep
have a
it.
horse neigh whenever it's a curse word.
The gong.
The gong. This mother.
Well, that's it for Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. A pleasure having you on, gentlemen, as always. This has been. Wait, is this the third time you two have been on?
Is it?
We did.
Yeah, it must be because
we did Titan and then.
Oh, we did. It was the 100th episode.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
100th episode.
I forgot. Okay.
Thank
Titan
you.
then this.
It's always an honor.
Our pleasure, dude.
Great double team. Thank you.
Your evasiveness has increased.
Grace.
Good luck hitting any attack for the next 15 minutes, you 13-year-old kid.
That's what double teaming is.
Yeah.
Well, as always, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give us a follow and a 5-star review. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. If you want to support us directly, we have a Patreon and YouTube levels of subscription. Check it out. Links are in the description. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.